right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, the latest physique updates from Derek Lunsford at 2 weeks out from the 2025 Pittsburgh Pro. We talked a little bit yesterday about how Derek kind of has this whole team around him right now, everybody being coached by the same person. He's got Ramon with him. He's got Good Vito with him. He's got his trainer Fabricio with him. And I was watching this video, this latest 2 weeks out update of Derek, and I got to say, Derek looks really impressive from the standpoint of he looks full as a house. This is a very big, full version of Derek going into Pittsburgh. And I think you can really tell looking at this video and all the latest updates that we've seen from Derek that Derek is not messing around going into this show. I think he's on a mission this year to prove a point going into the Olympia that he is the guy. Whatever Derek seems to be doing differently this time around with a new coach seems to be a winning formula, because I think all this stuff that we've seen from Derek, including obviously the winning package that he brought to the Arnold Classic, this is like the best he's ever looked. And I think what makes how full he is in this video even more impressive is some of the other updates that we've seen, those comparison point updates, like this one. The 6 weeks out from the Arnold versus 6 weeks out from Pittsburgh. He's clearly drier, harder, more detailed. He looks like he's tighter at various points in his prep going into this show. So for him to look even bigger and fuller, not just in, he looked prepping for the Arnold, but also kind of looks bigger and fuller than the other guys he's going against, such as Nick Walker, such as Martin Fitzwater, which is not typically something you would say about Derek. You're typically not describing Derek going into a show as being one of the fuller guys, being one of the bigger guys. But I think that's exactly what you're seeing here in this update. And for me, I think this further reinforces my opinion that Derek is the favorite to win this show. Not just on paper, not just looking at his resume, not just looking at his recent placings, but looking at these updates, Derek has been the guy that I've been the most impressed with, closely followed by Nick Walker, who also posted an update, a series of updates today at 2 weeks out from the show. Nick even describing himself in these updates as being pretty flat here at 2 weeks out. And I think in comparison to Derek, like I said, the fullness that Derek brings, I think that he looks to be bringing, I think it looks pretty evident even compared to Nick Walker. And in most cases, when you're describing Nick Walker going into a lineup, you're probably thinking of Nick as being the most muscular, freakier, bigger guy going into a show. But I think in this case, maybe Derek isn't necessarily more muscular than Nick, but certainly at this point is looking a lot fuller. And again, we still got 2 weeks to go, so that's going to change. But I would say the picture that impressed me most from Nick's series of updates was the back double bicep. You're really starting to see that crazy level of detail that Nick has in the back double. I've said before, I really like Nick's back double, even though, going into a lineup like this with Derek being the favorite, Derek in the back poses, he's pretty hard to beat. So I don't know how much Nick's back double bicep is going to be able to compete with Derek's, but still, I really, really like Nick's back double bicep. And I think at 2 weeks out in these updates, you're starting to see that version of Nick's back double bicep, where you see all that crazy detail. And that's what makes that pose, I think, really pop for Nick when he gets closer to actually stepping on stage, is when that back double really starts to look nice and carved up and really stands out. I really think it's one of Nick's more impressive poses. But again, going into a competition with Derek Lunsford, Derek is kind of the back guy. He's going to be hard to beat even in that pose, even for Nick. And again, I will say, I said this in the last video, that the Pittsburgh Pro is a show that I don't think you're going to want to miss. And I was talking about how there's potential for, maybe other interesting scenarios besides just the crazy lineup. And I will say, I woke up to a text from Jim Mannion today. I'm not going to say what it said, but there could be another really big surprise in store for the Pittsburgh Pro that I think people would really be entertained by. So again, I would not miss this Pittsburgh Pro. Now, next up in the news, I wanted to talk about another segment from that Beyond the Stage TV interview with Dan Solomon. This was actually one of the parts that I liked about the Dan Solomon interview. One of the things that Dan said that I really agreed with So obviously yesterday we talked a lot about the stadium thing, and that portion of the video was just getting too long, so I didn't want to spend too much time in one video talking about that same interview. But the prize money thing, the main thing that Dan says in this interview that I thought was really good was that he wants to see, and he thinks we will see, the prize money get to $1 million for first place for men's open bodybuilding. And he even also mentions how he knows that Chris Bumstead wants to see the prize money hit $1 million for classic physique. And I believe that Chris has even said something to the effect of he would be willing to, or has thought about, contributing to that prize money for classic physique directly at the Olympia. Now the fact that they're thinking about this and that they've got it in the back of their minds that they want to continue to push the prize money, I think this is a good thing. So let me roll that clip for you guys here.
The prize money needs to start to be felt in all divisions. It's a very important topic. I know it's an important topic for a lot of people who we connect with. It's an important topic for Chris Bumstead, who I spoke to recently. He wants to see that in the classic division. It's a topic for athletes at all levels, in all divisions. They want to see that, and that is very, very important. Now, in those other divisions, we lead the way significantly. Like, it's not even close from a prize money standpoint in those other divisions. So while we're going to continue to march towards that shiny $1 million number, and we will get there because every year we continue to grow, so the trend would suggest that we will get there. We've had conversations with Chris about the classic physique prize money. It's very important to him. It's also very important to us to do this responsibly and to do it in a way that shows the kind of respect that that division deserves. I have found it to be good practice that when it comes to Chris, he's so good at communicating. He's so good at putting messages out the right way that I'm going to leave that to Chris. I'm going to let Chris speak for himself on that.
Now, I think these discussions are really important discussions to have about the prize money, about future, growth of bodybuilding, the stadium thing, all this stuff, because I feel like right now we're in this era of bodybuilding where we're directly seeing the impact of these pushes. And especially with the prize money, I mean, look at the last half a decade or so in bodybuilding. And the prize money across the board at every pro show has gone up for open bodybuilding. But look at the last half a decade at the Arnold Classic and the Olympia, how much the prize money has immediately increased. And I think a lot of that has been the result of both the bodybuilders and the fans pushing that narrative and pushing that conversation forward to now you're seeing the Olympia president say, I think it will hit $1 million in the near future for first place. And I think that's fantastic. Now, I would say that this little rivalry that there seems to exist between the Arnold Classic and the Mr. Olympia, even though they say there isn't one, I think there clearly is a little bit of friction there. I do think the Arnold pushing their prize money to $500,000 was the direct catalyst for the Olympia increasing it this past year to $600,000. So I think that competition, that rivalry, is a really good thing for the sport of bodybuilding to have two shows at the very top that are pushing each other to make the competitions better for the athletes and for the fans. And I think that's a really good thing. So I do think that the Arnold increase was directly the catalyst for the Olympia increase, and I think that they will probably continue to go back and forth pushing that prize money forward, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest drivers of a rapid increase in that prize money. And hell, even the Pittsburgh Pro, which we've talked a lot about, has a 6-figure first place prize money for their inaugural show, which is huge, $100,000. So like I said, I think it's important for the public, the fans, to have this discourse online about these topics, like the prize money, like the future venues, the stadiums, the lighting, the stage, the backdrop. And another example of that feedback being directly implemented into a show, the Detroit Pro Fuad show. You're directly seeing the result of your feedback be put into play at that competition with the lighting, with the plain black backdrop, with the free live stream. So we're in this really unique era of bodybuilding right now where that feedback is directly being taken and applied to the shows that you're watching right now in real time. So I don't think this is like a futile discussion. You will see changes made by the promoters that are listening to what the fans are saying. And I think this is the important part. I think fans will vote with their dollar and with their view on which shows they prefer based on who is actually listening to what they're saying. And Dan also spoke in this interview about expanding the Olympia internationally, and he does say that he thinks there's potential for that in the future.
I see a time where we will be on different continents. I see a time where we will be in different kinds of venues. I think the world, with all the innovations in technology and how we consume events and how much easier it is to be in different places and to follow events and to watch telecasts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I do. I think that day will come. There are some very appealing regions on the planet that we have tremendous respect for.
I think that's also something that needs to happen. I think it is a little unfair for the international competitors that every single year to get to the Olympia, they have to come to the United States, even though there's so many other countries now and so many other places that have these massive bodybuilding fan bases, like in the UK, like in Brazil, like in India. Like there are all these, the Middle East as well. There are all these other massive bodybuilding hubs. Like bodybuilding fans are worldwide, for sure. It's not just Americans. So the fact that it has been here in Vegas, and keep in mind, back in the day, the Olympia used to be all over the place. It used to be in South Africa. It was in France. It was in all kinds of different cities throughout the U.S. It was in New York. It was in Ohio. It was in Los Angeles. They did Australia. They did London. All kinds of places. Germany, Sweden, Italy, Finland. The Olympia used to be worldwide, even though, it still kind of was majority in the U.S. I think U.S. is by far the place that it's been held the most, but they did go all over the world, especially throughout the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. But pretty much from those early 90s to now, the last 30, 35-ish years, it's been held in the States. And I think it probably is time for a change in that regard in the near future. But I'm going to wrap up the video there. Just a short one today. I hope you guys did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.